Yes, you are right, Morgan. Happy Friday Eve, everyone. Welcome to Snow Talk. I'm Wave Meteorologist Brian Good. Quick update, as always. Well, I say quick, it never is, right? But this is an update on not only our short-term weather, but always looking out into the distance. For your snow lovers especially, this is where we can all gather. I know some people in here that don't really care for snow, but we welcome you as well. It's all inclusive, right? But certainly, I think we have more snow lovers than not in the Wave country. And I get the question a lot. Oh, if you like snow so much, why don't you just move to Michigan? Move to Alaska where they get snow. The thing is, snowfall there is like a sprinkle on a Wednesday. It's very mundane routine. Around here, just even get a chance of some light snow showers can certainly bring everyone to life. So it's just a much different feel at this latitude. And if you go roar down and say, when I lived in Charleston, South Carolina, flurries was absolutely chaos. Couldn't even enjoy it because everything was shutting down for flurries. So this is the perfect little Goldilocks zone, the Ohio River Valley, for any type of snow forecasting. I love it. But unfortunately, it is also one of the most difficult on the planet to forecast for wintry weather is the Ohio River Valley. So we've got always a lot of challenges. Always we get some little fake outs, if you will. We get a system that shows up and goes away, then it comes back. That emotional roller coaster is never fun, but we signed up for that, right? We signed up for that the day they said we love snowstorms and we love snow in general. So, yes, I'm alluding to that we do have some interesting weather starting to show up down the road. We've been talking about it actually for the past several days, but a little bit more of a storyline starting to show up. I'll show you here in a second. First off, yes, the snowboard has been updated, and for the first time this season, we've got an item on there. I could barely even put a 1. I almost need a scale that's below the 1, but I don't have it. And I was going to do a Twix scale, but I'm afraid that not many people will remember what the Twix scale was about, so I really don't want to confuse everyone. Like, why is he talking about candy bars every day? You guys tell me, though. If you'd rather have a Twix scale, then I'll figure it out. But I think the snowman scale pretty much sets the storyline. Easy enough. This is actually November 22nd through the 25th is the range I'm giving it. Yes, Thanksgiving does fall within that range. I'm not saying yet it's going to snow on Thanksgiving, and I'm not even saying it's going to snow on Easter. My basic plan here is that there's a system of interest that has an opportunity that makes it onto the board. And my window is roughly about a 2-week window, and this is the very edge of the window. So this one's a little tough to hold on here too. So we'll see. We'll see if it's still here tomorrow or if it fades away, which you guys know in several years doing this, it does sometimes fade away. Today, though, before we get back into that, I want to at least talk about the short term for those that are watching for that update of what's happening between now and the weekend, because I think it's important to go in a very a linear storyline flow here. I think it's the best way to explain how do we get to point A to point D is by going through B and C here. All right, so I want you guys to pay attention to that. Today, the flags yesterday were blowing that way. Today, they're blowing that way, indicating we do have a colder flow into the Ohio River Valley. We're 59 degrees and falling still. 57 in Corden, still holding on to 68 for those of you down in Columbia, while it's 52 for those into Seymour. Compared to 24 hours ago, where we were all in the 60s and about to hit 70, yeah, we're not too much of a dramatic drop yet. You'll see a much more dramatic drop in these numbers toward midday and early afternoon. The drought update came in today. Some improvements, and not really here. The northern Kentucky area improved. In fact, was removed from the drought status. Western Kentucky was removed from the drought status. But really, for all 30 of our counties, we're still in a drought status, but still it's the southern section, south of Eaton and Bardstown, into a moderate phase of drought, and same story for those of you north of Scottsburg. So that hasn't really changed a whole lot. As I mentioned before, Indiana needs way more rainfall there than what our southern Kentucky counties do. There are a couple systems. You may be able to play catch up. I got a feeling there may still be some type of low end drought status even as we close out 2023. But at least it's not in the season that is a growing season or harvest or anything like that. So the impact's not as great if we were to have this and in a different time of year. So that's the only plus. Okay, so here's a look at the front that came through. The wind's still gusty, but it's a northwest wind. Few light showers, southeast areas of Kentucky. I didn't see any rain at all out of this. I was looking for that on the windshield. There could have been bugs in my windshield, but I didn't see much at all. But certainly a drop in temperature because it was in the 70s all night long last night. All right, but if you look at this regional view, we've got one front through, but I want you to take your eyes and then focus down to the south. This is where our next little wave is moving along the front. The front is slowing down. It came through, I would say, Greensburg, Campbellsville, all the way through about getting close to Harlan, Kentucky, all the way into Pennsylvania, just south of Pittsburgh. And it's slowing down. So because it is slowing down, this next little wave, little ripple, is going to ride right along that. And there is still a little bit more of an eastern movement to go on this. I would say another 40, 50 miles it'll move, and then it will relatively be stuck for a moment anyway before it moves a little more on Friday. But because it is going to have that lingering effect, this wave of moisture is going to move right there. You can almost draw a line on the northern edge of it, and that is the area that you will see the northern extent of the rain. And that's going to cover southern Illinois, near Louisville, up to Cincinnati. If you're north of that, which certainly would be Seymour and North Vernon, Bedford, Indiana, you guys may be too far north to see that second wave. The second wave is going to graze this. This is going to happen later tonight. More than likely another event where you're asleep when it's passing on by. So tomorrow morning you may wake up with some wet roads. Here's Futurecast. Does a decent job on showing it being painted right into the area 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning tonight. This is a light rain scenario, but it's a much better opportunity to get light rain than what the one we have now on the radar is showing. So that's good. Not a drop busting rain, of course, but we'll take it. Moves on by. This is a colder wave. Now the question tomorrow is how much recovery do we have? That's always a tough call until we get into tomorrow. The more the clouds do linger, the more the opportunity is. There will be some areas within wave country that will stay in the 40s all day for highs tomorrow. And if you get some sunshine, you can see there, you can get into the lower 60s or even a touch warmer. So the sun is the key factor on tomorrow's weather. I think we are splitting the difference right now and going with lower 60s at the moment in the area. So that's the game plan to get you through where we stand all the way through the weekend and really quiet into early next week. Any questions on that? With Adam, good morning, longtime viewer, first-time poster from Bloomington, Indiana. Well, welcome to the group. Adam, appreciate that. We welcome everyone here. And again, even if you don't like snow, that's fine. Just, I wouldn't type it in chat. I wouldn't do that because they get really upset. But if you're a snow fan, go ahead and type away. Kathy, not like 20 to 30 below zero last year. Oh, the December. Yeah. We do not want the December repeat again. I do not see any sign of that, to be clear. That was a bit of quite the anomaly event. I was actually working on my Christmas inflatables, trying to figure out the arrangement of them. And I usually have an Olaf that I put up, but that freeze and the ice and the below zero was really hard on inflatables everywhere. But mine, especially my poor Olaf, did not make it. So rip. Olaf. Sorry about that. But I have a new surprise for this year. New surprise. Okay, so let me get to it. You guys are anxious, so let me get right into how this is going to evolve. We'll start with a look at the, well, let me pass this. Hold on. Okay, there we go. All right, the polar vortex. What's it doing? What's it doing? What's it doing? Well, we are losing the circular look of the core of the cold in the North Pole. Normally, we've seen that focus a little more on the other side toward Siberia. Has been drifting over there. But notice in the last couple of frames, when you look at it, it is starting to now do what we call a slight stretching, elongation there of the polar vortex. Now, that's an interesting step. And this takes us all the way to just before we get to Thanksgiving. If this were to continue, and right now there's some modeling that suggests it will, and drift a little more to the east, it would allow them for a cold air supply to be available for any storm system that moves across the central and northeast, especially part of the United States. It's just barely there to be able to grab a hold of and pull down, but the polar vortex is at least trying to cooperate by sending us or throwing us a bone here and trying to stretch out across Canada. That is the most, now I wouldn't say overly significant, because this was sort of expected on the idea that there will be some type of fluctuation here. But will this hold? That's a good question. This is just a model, and it's just one model's idea of this. They do not all agree on how that will evolve. But it's interesting to see that the last couple of frames that is starting to happen. Let me show you what it looks like on the ground level from the Euro. Next week, we've got one weak system across Texas. Doesn't really bother us too much overall. We get into the latter portion of the week, though. There is a system rolling in out of the Rockies, the Southern Rockies. What is interesting once we get to this point, and this is the Sunday before Thanksgiving week, this low pressure and energy in general does ramp up. There's fairly strong signal of a lot of lift going on here across the eastern third of the United States. So we know there's going to be a developing storm system or systems that will take place in the plains all the way to the mid-Atlantic. But how will that look? Will it be one? Will it be two? What about the timing of that? Good questions. Don't know yet, but I can tell you that this is the first piece of the puzzle to develop a storm system across the eastern half of the country. We haven't had a whole lot really happen, right? It's been fronts and fading fronts kind of idea. An organized system, it's been a while. This also could mean a couple of things, too. If it were to be a more organized system, then we need to start talking about the idea of thunderstorms getting involved somewhere into that scenario. Again, too early to know on that. But that's Euro's idea of how it looks. This is the GFS. Fairly similar. I do zoom out a little bit. Sorry about that. But you get the idea as we get into about that same time frame. It is doing the same thing. It is one to show energy trying to develop. Here's your cold air. Now, here's the problem. There is a block here in the Atlantic, and there's a ridge pumping in toward the West Coast and the Aleutians and Alaska. So the stage is set for a storm system to be in the central United States and for a stretching of cold air from the polar vortex to try to throw colder air right into the United States. Now, it will likely get shunned. In other words, it's unlikely that it'll go straight down to, say, Louisiana or Texas. It will likely come down and make a sharp turn here to the east. So that brings in a lot of questions on how much cold air the system will have when it runs into it. But players are on the field. Players are on the field for an interesting setup as we head into the Thanksgiving week and perhaps the week after that. So that's the reason why I can't really choose an exact date, because I don't know. I mean, I can see everything laid out, but once they all come together, it could take 2 or 3 days for all that to happen. But at least that is step one. The CFS model had some fun last night. It is showing one of those systems is the end of it. This is Thanksgiving, I believe, and it's showing more of a backlash issue of snow showers into the Ohio Valley. I think it may be a little too far east with the storm, but I think it's trying to sniff out what the pattern is looking like. And when you look at the matrix, which I love showing the snow matrix, the ensembles, the Euro, okay, we've got a few. Still no blues, although I did get blue briefly on this yesterday, but still grays. but starting to get a little noisy, a little bit on the noisy side, and it would be roughly around that time period around Thanksgiving. We'll see if this fills in more or not. I think right now, all the modeling in general, there's a lot of missing pieces to this to really pick out any one storm system. But I do think the players on the field are interesting. I don't know if it's going to last very long, if this is just a teaser that we were expecting at some point, end of November, early December, and we bounce back into warm blowtorch air, we call it, for the rest of December. Let's hope not. But at least this is the first piece I see in the season that does look interesting. There you go. Does that make sense? Low coming for the south. It gets interesting this winter. It does get interesting. You got to get the cold, though. Got to get the flow to work right to get cold air. Otherwise, you're going to just low pressures with rain moving in across the southern part of the country, and you get maybe some elevation snow in the Appalachians, but that's about it. That's pretty not very exciting, right? Actually, just a dusting would be nice at some point. Just a dusting. Although the first snow, you guys know, it's always tough for the first snow to do much around here, especially stick. So that's always a saving grace. The first snow gets the most excitement. I think it gets the most social media attention. I don't know if we even do breaking news for it. I have no idea. But it gets a lot of attention, but it typically melts on contact. It's usually the ones 2 or 3 later that get a little more interesting. All right, guys, there you go. That's where we stand. Let me look over the new data. I hinted that some new stuff is coming in today, actually tonight. And let me look over that. Let's see where we stand on this. And let's hope that it actually will stay on the snowboard tomorrow. Oh, fingers crossed. Let's hope it doesn't fade away. But hey, it's just early in the season, guys. It's still autumn. A lot more fun and games to be had. Until then, actually, it's not going to be a bad day today at all. Temperatures in the 60s, a little breeze outside, plenty of sunshine. Enjoy, because the rain, at least the light rain, does move back into wave country for tonight. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, guys. I'll see you at 11 a.m. on midday.